Welcome to Startup Hack. All right, health checks are essential components of any robust application, allowing you to choose to monitor the status of your application's dependencies, services, and overall system health. So in .NET Core, ASP.NET Core, it provides a health check feature that allows you to perform checks on different aspects of your application and report their status. So let's dive into some of those today. All right, welcome to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thomason. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as to build custom software solutions for companies. So I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology, teams, and products. All right, today we're going to explore how to implement health checks in .NET Core applications and integrate the ASP.NET Core HealthCheck.UI.Client package to visualize health check results into a user-friendly UI. All right, so what are health checks? Health checks are mechanisms to monitor the status of different parts of your application. Now, their purpose is to ensure that critical components, examples, databases, APIs, are functioning correctly. So like a routine physical exam for your application, this is a good analogy to understand why health checks are important. So why are health checks important? It's proactive monitoring, detecting issues before they affect users. The reliability is that you maintain high availability and performance. So this allows you to quickly identify and resolve problems in your application to make troubleshooting much easier. Now, how health checks work. We have to first define a health check, and we implement the iHealthCheck interface. And we're going to go, and as always, there's a free code sample here, so make sure you check the link down below because we have hundreds of free coding samples out there. So make sure to check these out. But make sure you pull down the code on this one too, because we've got a running sample we're going to do here in just a couple minutes. So I just want to run through this last slide here, and then we're going to dive into the code. So let's write the logic to test the health of a component. You got to configure the health checks. You got to register health checks in programs.cs. You have to map endpoints to expose health check results, and then we're going to add health check endpoints by creating routes to query the health check status. All right, so as always, let's dive into some code. Enough of Spencer yapping here. All right, so I pulled down this code here, and again, as always, we've got all this free code samples out here, so make sure you pull these down because we've got hundreds of free coding samples out here. You can see the GitHub repo. I'll drag it over here. You can see the GitHub repo. We have hundreds of free coding samples out here, so make sure you pull this down. So this is number 227 that we're working against here today, this health check. So we've got even a SQLite database in here and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by checking out our program.cs here. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see it here, but hopefully you guys can still see that on there. Now, what we're going to point out here for starts is we've got for the very first thing that we have to do is we need to create a .NET Core Web API project. And so again, pull down this source code because we've already got it here for you. Now, you want to add the health checks, right? So these health checks go in our, we want to go in where we're configuring the service to add these health checks. So in our program.cs, you can see that we have builder.service add health checks, and then we're going to add health checks, and we're going to say, hey, we're going to do a health check for the database, right? And this allows us to configure those services to add the health checks. We're also going to add the health check UI, right? And we got to make sure that we do that in our configured services. So let's take a look at those really quick. Okay, so here in our program.cs, we're going to add the app.map health checks. We're going to map that health check to the check health route, which we're going to create here in that controller here in 1 second. Now, we need to create a sample health check, right? So we need to do, so we're going to add the sample one here, and the sample will help us to get those configured. So we have our controller here, which is going to look up, and it's going to have the sample list of of these results here, right? And so that's going to return this result. Now we need to install the Health Check UI client, right? And this is what's going to allow us to run this. So let's go ahead and get these started here, and we can kind of walk through some of this together, right? Because we're gonna watch it map this health check here, and watch it build out some of these health checks. So if I run this program here, and again, all of our code samples that we download are totally free, and you need to pull these down because these are really helpful. We even ship them with helpful services. So you can see that we ran right up to this map health check here, and we're gonna run this guy here. All right, so what I get is I get the Swagger here. so that we can test our value. So let's execute this. Now you can see that our response was these local USA, right? And so we can see our console running here, and we can see that it executed against the health check, right? So this health check is going to continue to run over time, and we are able to see when this value is good and when it goes bad. So let's take a look at that example. All right, now in our case, because we mapped our health check here, we have our health check here, which is going to be, we're going to execute by hitting this check health. So now in our browser, we're just going to go to, like in this case, I fired it up and it went to this, and we were checking the Swagger. So we know that this endpoint is working because we can see the response, because that's what's hard coded on the controller. Now this check health is going to check that. So I ran the same base URL and then added the check health because that's what we mapped right here in our Visual Studio. So when I run this, so let's put a breakpoint here on, let's add a breakpoint to our controller here so we can see when this is hitting. We can also see how we're going to do a database health check to be able to run this database check, and we'll show that here in a second. So let's go ahead and fire off our route again. All right, I would have expected it to hit that. So you can see that the health check is returning healthy. Oh, that's because it's doing the health check is actually doing our database checks. So let's go put our breakpoint into the database check here, right? So if we go into the database context here, we can add, because that's the value controller. So if we add our database health check here, we can add some breakpoints here, and we will see that it will hit this code here. So let's move this aside here so we can see this. So we can see that it's going to hit these. It's going to check and do a select one from the database to see if our database is healthy. The nice part about this is all it does is return health check.result of healthy or unhealthy, right? Depending on if the database is working. So now let's fire that request again. There we go. So we see that it's hitting the database. It selects one. It says, hey, that's healthy. If it thrown the exception, it would have given us an unhealthy. So this is a great way to tell if the database is up. Now we can, and so this is a really handy way to be able to execute our whole sample code. So make sure that you pull down the sample code and take a look at these. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as to build custom software solutions. So if you're trying to learn how to use health checks in .NET Core, this is a really good and simple example, and we've given you all the code here in our code samples. Otherwise, we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.